Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Tuesday, August 3rd. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Minnesota game is in 30 days, the game against Michigan in 116 days. Today is the first media availability of fall camp for the Ohio State football program. Friends, there's going to be some stuff to talk about when we get to talk to Corey Dennis and the other quarterbacks on the roster today, because on Monday, the top overall player in the class of 2022, Quinn Ewers, officially confirmed that he is reclassifying to 2021, will be enrolling at Ohio State this month. There is a lot to talk about surrounding that news. My guest today is Buckeye Scoop recruiting analyst Marc Givler. Marc, I guess let's start with the basics for people who are maybe not paying total attention to the story. Why is Quinn Ewers enrolling now and skipping his senior season of high school football?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing obviously is the whole name, image, and likeness stuff. Right now, Texas high school prospects are not allowed to take advantage of that, or they would be ineligible to play. So someone like Quinn, who is uniquely, I think, positioned to cash in on this type of thing immediately, would be risking at least high six figures, perhaps even low seven figures, by playing a high school season this year. And we can all sit here and speculate whether that would still be on the table for him in 4 months from now. But you just never know what could happen. So that was a big thing. And then, of course, with that, why not get on to Ohio State's campus early, start learning the offense and building chemistry with his receivers?
So the question now for this fall is, what does this mean for the 2021 Buckeyes? And, we can get to future seasons in a minute because there's a whole bunch of intriguing questions there. But we had a report from Nevada late last week that Ewers was not just planning to show up and be a spectator and, just sit in the quarterback room quietly and learn the offense and maybe play a couple snaps against Akron. Like, he's planning to come in and compete for the job this fall. I mean, in your mind, is that even remotely possible that he could win the starting job at some point this season? I mean, he's coming in very late. You got three guys who are also pretty darn good quarterbacks who've had, between a 6-month to 18-month head start on him. Is it possible he wins the starting job or, even is the top backup at some point this season?
Anything's possible, Tom. Let's start there. But do I think it's reasonable? No, I think the only path he would really have to starting games at Ohio State this fall would be in the case of some type of injury bug that would hit the quarterback room, which, hey, we've seen that in Columbus before, so you never know. Or coupled with some really poor play. I mean, I think they'd have to cycle through at least two of the guys on the roster right now, two of the three on the roster right now who would, maybe go out there and perform poorly and get yanked out of games. Outside of those two scenarios, do I see a scenario where Quinn just comes in and beats these guys out? No, I don't. And I don't think. Here's the thing: he's gonna get a late start on camp. We're ballparking him for like maybe the middle of August, maybe a little bit on the early side of that, to get all the stuff that he needs to get done to get to campus. So you're already going to be behind the eight ball. I know Ryan Day is going to want to name a starter probably within a week to 10 days or so after Ewers arrives. That's going to be almost impossible to win it in camp. And then from there, if you're not the starter, and certainly if you're not one of the top two, your reps during the season are going to be virtually non-existent. I mean, you are not going to get a lot of reps. You're going to maybe get some. I think his biggest contribution to practices will probably be scout team. So I guess maybe in that vein, he could show something on scout team, but that's not running the Ohio State offense. It's going to be running the opponent's offenses. So I think it's a really tall task to expect him to do anything this year, outside of maybe getting to some games late. And I think they're going to preserve a red shirt if they can.
Yeah, I mean, he is probably not a 5-year player. That would certainly not be my expectation for him. But also, you're probably not going to be burning a year just for the sake of burning a year. So yeah, and this year is interesting. Once you get past this year, though, it's like, okay, we could do an hour and a half on the show, and Tony Gerdeman and I did our very best to do almost an hour on this on Monday on an extended version of the Buckeye Weekly podcast. And he asked me a really interesting question that I wanted to ask you. Does Ewers enrolling early make it more or less likely that he wins the full-time starting job at some point as a Buckeye? And I'll kind of walk you through the pros and cons in my mind and let you kind of weigh in there. Obviously now he has at least theoretically a shot in 2021. Even if you want to say it's a 1% chance now, okay, he went from a 0% chance to a 1% chance in 2021. Okay. he also has a head start for 2022 where, he's coming in and now Kyle McCord has a 6-month head start on him as opposed to a, 18-month head start or a 12-month head start. So, okay, so he's a little bit more likely for 2022. On the other side, it may speed up the process in his head where, if he hasn't won the job by a certain point, maybe that makes him more likely to transfer at some point because he's draft eligible after 2023. And, does he want to wait till the last season or does he want to, push that back a year? Because now he's eligible for the draft in 2023 after the 2023 season instead of 2024. I mean, I found that a really interesting thought exercise and kind of talked myself in circles for a while. So what do you think? Where do you sort of fall on that question?
That question makes my brain hurt. That
right?
In turn, it makes me angry with you because you're making me think now. And
no. Don't blame me. This is Tony's fault. This is all Tony's fault.
Very uncomfortable when I have to think hard. I mean, I guess maybe slightly less likely just because it gets him more on the Kyle McCord path, and they're going to maybe have to make that decision between McCord and Ewers earlier because they're going to have to release a depth chart. I mean, I don't know. I guess slightly less likely. I don't. Gosh, that's not enough time to really contemplate that scenario. I needed a few days to kind of sit and stew on that one, but oh man, yeah, I don't think it really. I don't see how it helps. Put it that way. I don't see how it helps him become the starter at Ohio State. Yeah, but maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
and this fall was kind of interesting. Next spring could be the Ohio State quarterback derby to end all Ohio State quarterback derbies in the history of the school. I mean, you've got, let's just for a moment stipulate that CJ Stroud starts this year, that he's the starter this fall. Fine. You come out of the season, you've got 4 guys, maybe someone transfers, maybe, maybe all 4 guys are here, whatever. You would assume that Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, Jack Miller are all going to be given another chance because you've got a couple guys who are a year behind Stroud. But, you can't just say CJ Stroud is definitely the starter for 2022 because then Miller and Stroud and Ewers, most or all of them probably hit the bricks at that point if they're being told, no, you have no chance to be the starting quarterback this year. So I don't even have a question. I just we started talking about the spring 2022 football, and it's like this could be one of the craziest Ohio State football competitions, quarterback derbies. This could make 2015 seem almost like a nice, normal, smooth, easy year.
Yeah. One thing I would add though, if CJ Stroud were to go out this fall and just have a great season, I mean, what are you going to do at that point? I mean, at that point, I think everyone is going to realize that no matter what Ryan Day says, and no matter how hard they want to compete, that it's going to be awfully hard to justify removing CJ Stroud if he goes out and has a great season this year, in his draft eligible season next year. So I think a lot is going to weigh on, who starts this year, how do they perform. Do we have some quarterback derby this year? I mean, does a cold CJ Stroud get yanked for Kyle McCord because he looked really good in practice? Running practice squad. There's a lot of different variables here that are going to play out this fall that are going to tell us, I think, just how much of a competition it's going to be next spring. So I think, strangely enough, if you're an Ohio State fan, I think you want whoever starts against Minnesota to go out there this year and dominate, and then there's no controversy next spring. But I think if there's a quarterback controversy next spring, it's because they didn't get great quarterback play this year, which I think would be concerning for everybody.
Good for podcast downloads, not so good for the Ohio State football program on the whole. So it works out either way, I guess.
Maybe good for us, but it's not good for anybody else.
So one more quarterback question before we move on to another important topic that's happened this week. 2023 season opener is at Indiana on September 2nd, 2023. So not next year, the year after. And because this is the Morning Scoop, I feel contractually obligated to tell you the 2023 season opener against Indiana is 760 days away. So go ahead and write that one down. So the over-under of the 4 quarterbacks right now, currently on the roster, so Stroud, Miller, McCord, Ewers. Of those four quarterbacks, over under of them who are still Buckeyes at the 2023 season opener in at Indiana, 1.5. What do you say?
Push. No. You're making me think again. I think probably under. I've got a little more conviction on this one than the last one, which I'm probably going to be waking up in the middle of the night tonight. Just, oh no, it's actually better that Quinn Ewers is getting here early. But I think it's going to be one. I think one. I think it's going to be one. I think, gosh, if let's say Stroud's the guy this year, then he's probably off. He's either off to the NFL, or if he hasn't played well enough, he's been Wally pipped at some point, and then he's out of the program entirely at that point. And then it's whoever is named, I guess, the starter. I think everyone else probably at that point is elsewhere. I maybe two could hang around. I tend to think it's going to be one. I think that's probably the safe bet, the safe pick there.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's going to be very difficult to have all four of them on the roster for the 2022 season opener. I doubt you have the same four guys this time next year. Nope. So then you're down to three, and Stroud. I'm right with you. Either Stroud is drafted in the spring of 2023, or spring of 2023, or he's lost his job and gone somewhere else. I mean, there's only so I think we may be done with the days of a 4-year Ohio State starter at quarterback. That may not happen again, at least in the foreseeable future. So, all right, I think I've done enough to mess with your head with the quarterback situation. Let's talk about another piece of 5-star recruiting news for the Buckeyes this week. This one was, unquestionably not very good for them. Jaheim Singletary, a quarterback for the class of 2022, decommitted from the Buckeyes. I mean, this was not a complete shock, and we have had conversations about the over-under of the number of their 4 cornerback commits who might actually sign with them. And the over-under number was not 4. It was below that. So this was not a huge shock. And, you never want to lose a 5-star commit. But, does the timing of this, where this is not on the eve of signing day, like it was with Jordan Battle, like it was with Clark Phillips. So you either have a chance to win him back or replace him in the class because there's still 4 months to early signing day. Does that maybe make this a little less devastating for the Buckeyes than it could otherwise be?
Yeah, I think, first of all, this, look, I will say this every time. Ohio State's always going to be bigger than one commit. So there is probably never in the history of their program been one guy who, if he decommitted, the whole program collapses. Although I would argue maybe Terrell Pryor would have been an interesting one if he had never came to Ohio State. That would have been interesting, but he was never actually committed to them. So I guess he kind of gets out of this conversation. But, so with that said, in that context, this is a big loss. I mean, this is for my money, one of the top 5 or 6 players in the country, and a Jeff Okudah type of talent. So I think it's a big, big loss. But yeah, I think if you got Ohio State in kind of a moment of honesty right now, I think they would rather know this today than they would, to find this out on Thanksgiving Day. That'd be a tough pill to swallow at that point. So they're going to keep recruiting him. I think it's very, very, very unlikely he matriculates his way back into the class, which I would have thought maybe a month ago that if he did decommit, that maybe things would be a little more open than they seem to be right now. But right now, it doesn't look good. I don't think Ohio State thinks they're going to get him back. I think they're operating as though they won't. But I think they're a little relieved they know now versus just constantly fighting this battle with him for the next 4 or 5 months, only to come up short in December or something like that. It gives them a lot of time to regroup here and kind of figure out their options. But they've got a lot of good defensive backs already, so it's not as devastating as maybe could be otherwise.
There have been questions swirling about some of the other corners in this class. In your mind, does the decommitment of Singletary change anything with those guys? Is that, were some of those depth concerns that it might maybe make those other guys a little more solid in the class, or is not really an impact?
I think it could help. I think, look, every one of these guys, they're competitors, but they're also not idiots. I think people know Jaheim Singletary's a huge talent. And I think having him in the class, was a bit of a, kind of an elephant in the room for some of these guys who are, you're part of a 4 or 5 corner class, and one of them is Jaheim Singletary. Now he's out of the mix. You might look around that room and be like, things just are looking up for me now. It's just kind of a natural thing. So I think that could help stabilize things with some other guys. Now, of course, we get into that, and now we're going to start talking about, now who else could Ohio State get? So, if Damani Jackson, for example, who again, let me be clear, I do not think Ohio State's getting Damani Jackson, but if he shows up in October, or November for an official visit, how does that resonate with the recruiting class and things like that? So, there's some waves to navigate still, but I think in the short term, I'm sure a lot of guys are waking up feeling a little better about their situation on the depth chart than maybe they were, a few days ago.
Well, a 5-star decommitment, a 5-star reclassifying and enrolling early, just another boring day on the Ohio State football beat, and the craziest offseason in the history of the sport is more or less officially over today, because a little later on today, we will be at Ohio State to talk with Corey Dennis and the Ohio State quarterbacks, the 3 Ohio State quarterbacks. We've not talked to CJ Stroud or Jack Miller since January of 2020. A little bit of stuff has changed in the world and on the Ohio State campus since January 2020. So we'll probably have a lot to talk to them about. We have not gotten a chance to talk to Kyle McCord at all. That'll be fun as well. I'm not sure. I don't think they're technically able to talk about Quinn Ewers today, but I'm sure people will find some creative ways to ask questions to get around the NCAA rules about being able to talk about guys who haven't signed letters of intent or officially enrolled yet. So that'll be a fascinating conversation. And there's also all the stuff we would want to ask them before the Quinn Ewers news broke. So there's going to be plenty to talk about today. We'll have coverage of that all day today at BuckeyeScoop.com. We'll probably have a special episode of Buckeye Weekly, I would guess, Tony Gerdeman and I talking about that. We'll probably have some conversation about all that stuff on the morning scoop tomorrow morning. And Wednesday morning, we're watching Ohio State football practice. So it is going to be a busy, busy, busy week as fall camp kicks off in Columbus. And we continue the countdown to the season. Yes, tomorrow it will be just 29 days till the Minnesota game. It is practically here. 4 weeks into days starting tomorrow. So yeah, it is football season is almost here. And the best place to experience it is at BuckeyeScoop.com. If you have been a member for a while, you've kind of known this Quinn Ewers stuff was happening long before anyone else did. Kirk Barton kind of floated this as a possibility, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and everyone went, "You're crazy." And here we are. Kirk's less crazy than we thought. Who could have imagined? So that if you want to get insight and analysis on Ohio State football, unlike anywhere else on the internet, just sign up today at BuckeyeScoop.com. Kirk also does podcasts. So pretty much all of us, Marc, Bill Gate Green, we all do podcasts. If you like podcasts, and if you're listening to this, apparently you do, make sure you check out all of our great podcasts on whatever podcast platform you like. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of them. Kirk does the Scoop World Order podcast. Marc does Gives in the Bank with Bill Green. Tony Gerdeman and I do Buckeye Weekly. Alex Gleitman does Around the Oval. Dominic Smith does Beyond the Shoe. The Sloopcast guys do, Jared and Kyle do the Sloopcast. Chip and Michael do the Silver Bullets podcast. We have a little bit of something for everybody. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find it on whatever podcast platform you like. And if you're watching this on YouTube, at the end of this video, there's going to be a little thing that pops up with another suggested video and a little circle on the right-hand side that has the Buckeye Scoop logo. Just click on that Buckeye Scoop logo and you get subscribed to our Buckeye Scoop YouTube channel. Totally free. All you have to do is click that, and then you get notified every time we post a new video. We'll be doing interviews with the quarterbacks today. We'll have kind of an instant reaction show to the quarterback interviews today. You can get notified every time we post a new video so you don't miss anything. All you have to do is subscribe at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.